Hi everyone! Welcome back to the MPP channel. This is Mariana.
Diane.
Raphael.
And today's topic we're going to take, it's going to be a little bit heavier. We're going to talk about accountability in popular culture.
Fun stuff.
And what that means as, conscious consumers of art and music and things like that. So I... Thinking about of all the men who have been recently outed as alleged, and I say that because I have to, not because I want to, because I believe all the femme folks and women who have come forward, who have been outed as rapists and sexual abusers. So they have been outed, but what has actually been done to undermine their positions of power in the systems that they operate in and that they navigate in? Harvey Weinstein, who is a serial rapist or serial sexual abuser, he went to rehab for sexual addiction, but he's still out. There's been no
trial.
There's no criminal charges. There's I don't know. I just and also thinking about maybe R. Kelly, which is another a different super powerful, super influential man. Who, if we'll link it below. There was that really awesome expose that BuzzFeed did of all sources, who was looking at the, for lack of a better word, the cult that he has created around himself of women who have been trapped by him and his magnetism and his brainwashing, but that situation also, what's fascinating, or what's also really gross about it, is that there can't be anything done because these women are all of legal age. But then also looking at the history of R. Kelly, who fucking married Aaliyah when she was 14, and who has on interview, when someone asked him would you bang a teenager, he said, well, how young? And it's just that's not the point, dude. It's that's gross, So it's all of these instances, and he peed on a child, He peed on a child, and then that was the trial was never brought forward because I think the girl recanted, probably because of blackmail and really horrible shit that his team did. That's my opinion. Because that's usually what happens in cases like that when women come forward. They're usually, if they recant their statements, it's usually because someone is exerting some sort of power or force over them.
I think there's also the statute of limitations, right? That comes into play,
which is fucking ridiculous.
It's the worst because I don't want to get into I don't know. I just
Yeah, because for the statute of limitations is for certain types of crime, if you do not report them within X amount of time, you can't, and if it goes over that brief window, you cannot press charges anymore. And a lot of the laws are different from state to state. From in the U.S. and Canada, it's different. But there's most places have a statute of limitations on what is sexual assault and rape, which is completely ridiculous
because there's a time limit to your pain. Basically, it's a law that basically protects the abuser, which is really shitty, and it's one of those reasons why women also don't come forward. It's so hard for victims to come forward in the first place and to have that time limit. It's just
because not only are you dealing with a legal system that is very limited, it's pressuring you to come forward when you may not be ready to tell your story, but then you also have to navigate a system who is constantly doubting you at every turn, and then you also have to deal with this bullshit heteropatriarchy that is well, what were you wearing? Why did you go out with him in the first place? Why did you invite him over?
Why did you take that drink? Why, all these things.
It's all of these things and all of these steps that are already stacked against victims of sexual assaults to not come forward, to not press charges. So going back to the artists and these creators of content, I believe, it is my opinion, that that we have to be conscious consumers of art, music, media. So I think that it is super important to separate not separate the art from the artist, to remember,
you need to separate them.
No, like, I don't think we should consume their content, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, well, he did this really fucked up thing, but I'm still gonna watch his movies. Like, remember who is behind the screen. Remember who is behind the lenses. Like, I don't think if something problematic, if someone has been accused of rape, if someone has been accused of child molestation, like, no matter how much you try to separate them from their art, that is a part of the person who created it. So I don't know, I just believe that we have to think about the shit that we're consuming, because all too often, for like the sake of like, you know, 20 minutes, 30-minute YouTube video for like, you know, shits and giggles, we're just gonna forget about who did it, and that makes us complicit in a system of violence. I think.
And that's for me, like, I'm going to go even further in the past, when I'm going to talk about Gauguin. So Gauguin was an artist that people say revolutionized French art with his colors and you know, all the things. So what happened with Gauguin was he lived in France, and he left his wife and children because he was tired of, you know, France and everything, and he went to Thailand, not to Thailand. He went to Tahiti. And over there, he took in 3 girls. One was 13, the other was 14. And he gave them, because he had syphilis, and he gave them syphilis. And when you look at his paintings also, his paintings are young girls. Some are naked, and just throughout, you know, it's just...
So basically, he painted child pornography.
He just painted pornography, right?
No, not pornography.
Well, not
child pornography.
There you go, yeah. Child pornography, yeah. And to think that that people saw it, like, because he wasn't that popular back then, but like after, people enjoyed his art, enjoyed the colors, enjoyed all these beautiful colors, but then there is the child that's in the painting. And I find it extremely disturbing, because after we have this, I think it was like last year, there was a movie done about Gauguin. Yeah. And the way
with Vincent Cassel,
they were celebrating him, and that's why I bring it back to, you know, to that question, even to the men that are not alive, and you know that that some revere. They say, oh, good paintings, or, you know, good books and everything. Do we still consume their art? Do we still buy their art? Do we still want to see their art? And for me, no. Like for me, it's just when. Just for the example of Gauguin, he painted young girls. He gave syphilis to 3 young girls. He died of syphilis by the age of 54, you know. He left his wife with children, you know. And we still look at this painting, and we try and find this beauty.
Yeah, but like, also that also brings up this like really interesting narrative that is very pervasive when it comes to like children of color, where they are seen as more mature more adult, and so all of this stuff is permissible because they are, even though they are young of body, they're like mature of mind,
of like exotic countries.
Very disturbing, because at one point he did, I won't say word for word what he said, but he said he went back to, when he went to Tahiti, he was like, I don't like, he was talking about colonialism, and he said, oh, when you look at colonialism, now they're all wearing clothes. I prefer when they were not wearing clothes. And there's something very disturbing how he's like talking about colonialism.
Because that is the problem of colonialism.
It's just, there we go. It's just disturbing in a way, and some people still review, some people still like his art, some people are still enjoying his art, and it's just,
I don't think you should, I agree, like, that you should not be able to separate the artist and their art, especially if that artist has been accused of something so like awful. You can't just look the other way anymore, you know, for like Woody Allen, that's another example. There's so many examples. There's a long list of accusers that we can talk about, but we can't go through them all, otherwise we'd stay here forever.
We would be here for hours and hours.
It's like, how can you continue to consume someone's art knowing that that's there? So if I don't know,
and also not consume, but participate.
Participate
Because
in
also,
art.
you know, thinking about Woody Allen, that man has had so many fucking like A-list Hollywood stars acting in their films, and every single one of his plots is the exact same shit. A frustrated middle-aged man falls in love with a barely legal blonde nubile co-ed, and she falls head over heels in love with him as well. And it's like, and you know, did you read the article that was?
Because his recent like his writings have been dug up.
Yeah, from the archives, and he is obsessed with teenage girls.
Yeah,
he's a fucking he's obsessed with teenage girls. And I'm not gonna say that he's a pedophile, but once again, he is obsessed with teenage girls.
Yeah. And I don't know if you like. If you look into him, you know, like his daughter, one of his daughters, like. Accused him of sexual assault. He married his adoptive child. It's just, I don't know how you can like recently like there are some artists who have worked with him who continually defend him because they're like, oh, you know, he never treated me this way. I never thought that he would be like this, or like for example, Diane Keaton recently said like, well, he's my friend and I believe him. And it's like, wow, so just because someone treated you well means that they treated everyone else with the same respect. It's like, that's not the case.
It's not the case.
Like, you are completely biased. You have to look at this from like, not from a point of view of like, okay, that's my friend and I completely believe them. It's just, it's really gross. And I think people who are like, no, but you know, his films are great. Number one, like, who the fuck cares about Woody Allen's films? No offense.
No, full offense.
Full offense, yeah.
If you genuinely love Woody Allen and his content and his movies, like, just fucking think about, really like dig deep and think about, why are you supporting this man when his obsession with teenage women, teenage girls borders on pedophilia. He is gross. His fucking plots are like overdone, and it's always the exact same shit. Oh, also,
you just don't get the art, you know. It's I'm sorry,
they're so white.
They're
so
really
white.
Like, you know, it's so problematic because people who are saying like, well, you know, that's separate, like that's his private life. No. The problem with doing that, the problem with all the time separating the artist and the art is you're perpetuating this thing to continue happening, and it keeps Woody Allen at the top directors, like it keeps him up there. And if we like, if you finally say like, no, we have to put him like hold him accountable of all these accusations, then finally, like, we're going to put a light on all these accusations, basically, and it won't keep him there, like, on a pedestal, because you continue to lionize these great people who have, like, who have given so much to our culture and our society, but, like, that's such a stupid argument. Like, you're not thinking about the victims, you're just thinking about, like, is that so precious to you, this piece of art, that you'd be willing to, like step on these victims and like not give a shit about all these accusations?
But that's why I feel there's a selfish mindset in our society. I'm going to explain myself, because for example, Roman Polanski, or just the artists, for example, you love the artists so much. When you watch their movies, or when you watch their art, when you read their books, it makes you feel good. And in a way, you escape your problems, right? Yeah.
And to like preserve that paradise for you, you're willing to like sideline everyone else. Yeah.
So there's like this sense of people. There's a sense where people are just, if it doesn't touch me,
I don't care.
I don't care. And I feel like more and more as we move in time, I feel people are becoming more and more individualistic, and that individualism creates a problematic issue where people are suffering because you feel happy about something. So we can attack the artists. I'm going to attack the artists. Roman Polanski, we can Gauguin, we can everyone, right? But at the same time, what are we doing by enjoying the art? I remember talking to a person. I was saying, talking about Gauguin or Victor Hugo in the past, I know like all the artists that don't exist anymore. And I was saying, well, at some point I feel like when we know what they did was extremely violent, because people, even though we went there to see it, people may have suffered or did suffer because of that artist. I think in a way, even though they're dead, or even if we talk about the artists now, we have to just stop. It's like, yeah, but I think we can, as you said, separate, because there's something beautiful about the art. But I say that within that beauty that you see, there's something extremely dark and evil that follows. And if you're gonna take that into, if you're gonna say, well, I'm gonna look the other way, you're participating and you're perpetuating this kind of behavior.
You have to be continuously critical of the things you consume. Like, it's not anymore like, of course, like in the beginning, you'll watch things and you'll consume things and you're like, you'll love them because you love them. But then if you learn something about that artist, or there's something insidious about that piece of art, that even though you really appreciate it, that you have to be critical because it's saying something that you know, is kind of detrimental, then you need to I don't know, you need to it'll be difficult to reconcile, obviously, something that you love so much. It's really hard. But you need to be critical. You need you need to remind people that this is something that happens. Like, you can't turn a blind eye.
That is continuously happening.
Yeah.
And we can't let them get away with it. We cannot be complicit in like a culture of forgetfulness.
Yeah.
Where one day someone is accused of rape and then the next day they're winning the Oscar for Best Male Actor.
Yeah.
We all know what we're talking about.
We know what we're talking about.
But
Many of them.
But that's why I feel like I was gonna say something I totally forgot. But like I was now with with the Me Too movement and everything, which is great, which is wonderful. I'm happy because the victims have their say in a way, because they say, so and so did this to me, but that person, like in the beginning you were saying, that person we blame, we say, what you did was wrong. Why would you do that? But they still make the money. They're not. We don't put them in prison for what they did. Yeah. They're still out there. They're still like Roman Polanski. People know what he did. People know what he did, but he's still making movies. He's still making his money. He's still. So I think in a way that while we see that. We're slowly, and I hope it's a steady rise. It continues rising. We see people, calling out their calling out their abusers, which is one thing. And people trying to listen a bit more. Now we have to be able to say, "You did this. You belong in jail."
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, and if jail is not a consequence, then we have to ostracize them, because we shouldn't have rapists making money.
Yeah, still making money with knowing what we know.
Yeah.
But also I have to also talk about if we delve into intersectionality, because so I'm going to say something people listen to me. Okay, so
controversy.
No, it's not controversy.
Every episode, Raph drops a controversy bomb.
I'm trying to go deep into the conversation. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
No.
So I've realized with the Me Too movement, which was created by a black woman, right? Okay.
Her
name escapes me, but we will link it below in the show notes.
Yeah. And
not Rose McGowan, because fuck that bitch.
Yeah. So the thing is that Rose McGowan, what she went through was horrific.
Yeah.
And I have to say it's horrific, and I'm happy that she's talking about it, because if you hear the story, it is disturbing as FUCD. It's really disturbing, But there is this. How can I say this? I feel the victims that are put in front now, tend to be white women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, with everything that happens, we're going to center the narrative around white women, because white women are the ones that are supposed to be protected. White women are the ones that hold the community's worth. So if something happens to them, then the cause is gonna get more movement. Then the cause is gonna get money. Then the white women are gonna get their own reality TV shows on TLC.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. As we say this, we're not saying what they went through was horrible, but we're just saying the way it's going about it. Again, women of color are being left behind.
Yeah,
and absolutely.
And we have to look again. For example, I'm gonna go maybe a bit too far, but
and also we like what he said, like what Rose McGowan went through was horrible, but she is not a good person. Her feminism is turf feminism, all right? So in any feminism that does not include trans women is not feminism. It is just like, it is just white nationalism.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying, like, because for example, the R. Kelly, most of the women bring back to R. Kelly, right? Most of the women that were abused were black women of color, you know, and nothing. We're not talking about it, but we're talking about Harvey Weinstein, rightfully so.
No.
We're talking about all the artists we named.
A bunch of others. There's a bunch of them.
James Franco,
Woody Allen,
the younger Affleck, Casey Affleck,
you know, and rightfully so. I am so happy that they are that we are attacking them, but it's the victim that we're leaving behind.
Exactly, the victims that can't come forward
due to their pigmentations. Maybe
not even that, like yes, maybe they can't come forward because they're people of color, but also thinking about where all of these men are being outed. They're being outed in Hollywood. Hollywood, whose service industry, whose domestic workers, whose landscapers, whose caretakers are majoritarily Latina women. They cannot come forward because they lose their jobs. They cannot come forward because they cannot feed their children. And even though we have all of these rich white actresses coming forward, rightfully so, because these men need to be outed, there are still women who have to deal with them on a daily basis for their own survival, you know? So remembering that while the women who are coming forward should be applauded for their bravery, there are also women who cannot afford to come forward.
Because they have things to lose. And they can't afford to lose them.
They're not going to get a 2-story like spread on Vogue for their bravery. You know.
For sure.
And I'm trying to say, like, I'm trying to stay optimistic, right? Because I feel like you know, at some point, if that's happening, maybe it's gonna change slowly. We're gonna focus the story more on people that are not being seen, are not in the public eye, right? But at the same time, looking how power structure is, you know, I worry sometimes that we take something that's very good that's happening, but we keep it at a certain level, so that good is not then, you know, spread worldwide, you know, because we have a group of people who have the power to talk. Well, not the power, I have to be careful with that word, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Who can talk now at where we are.
I mean, they have the privilege.
There you go. Thank you. The privilege to talk, right? And also, I hope it's not going to be a phase. It's not going to, you know. Oh.
I don't know. I've lost. I'm just cynical, you know. I've lost hope that we're going to see any like real lasting change. And that's just personally me, because we live in a society and we live in a culture that just loves forgetting and loves forgiving. And while there is a time and place for forgiveness and for healing, I don't think that time is now, and I don't think it should be like a week after someone was accused of rape by like 20 plus women.
So I wanted to talk about more generally what we call out culture, because there's been a lot of op-eds over the last couple of years, recently also, of like people condemning call out culture. So basically, call out culture more or less started like in 2013 when I think this person was in communications and went to Africa, but tweeted something really racist. And then when they landed, they were like hit with a bunch of like tweets going like condemning her, and she lost her job basically. So it kind of, and there's lots of different cases like this where someone does something racist, sexist, whatever, is called out for it in public. So it's this mostly happens online. And a lot of people, some people who condemn call out culture call it, you know, performative activism, bullying, like piling on somebody. And so I wanted to ask what you guys think of this, because obviously people have to be accountable, like they have to be accountable for their actions, and they obviously need to be educated. But like, how do you feel like this because it's like rampant, right?
Yeah.
I can talk about my feelings later, but I wanted to know what you guys thought about that, like the whole culture of calling someone, canceling an artist. Like they did this, they're canceled. You know.
I think call it culture is interesting because it's because we're in a digital age where social media connects us. You know, social media is how you stay in touch. I think call it culture is an effective tool for social change because if someone says something ableistic, problematic, that's
little stomach growling. Sorry.
That's racist, homophobic, any of like the things that can happen. It's good because it can bring about more awareness, and it could actually make that person question what they are saying or the way that they are thinking. But I think the problem with call it culture is sometimes there is no room for forgiveness. There is no room for growth. So maybe someone says something problematic once, or they make like a joke or whatever, and they realize the error of their ways, and they're like, okay, I understand where I went wrong, and then they try to come back, but then they've been canceled. So they can't come back. And I think call it culture is a tool, but there also has to be a space for forgiveness.
So because like I feel like when we call someone, I think it has to be a case by case.
Definitely.
Scenario. Because some scenarios are so
like unforgivable. You can't
unforgivable that you cannot really go back. Like, for example, you know that woman who went to Africa and she said something about we have to forgive. I would forgive.
I think if that person understood the error of their ways, actually was able to, but it's really hard to.
Because for me as an African, right? I feel like sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes people go in Africa with
a savior complex.
So when they come, they tend to they look and they make fun of the culture, and they go back and then they say negative things about Africans and all of just about Africans. Like the number of things I've heard as not just African, but as an African, but as a Black person, right? That has been perpetuated, that continues and continues and continues, and that we don't want to stop because someone's not African, so they don't know what to do after. I feel like in some cases we can forgive you, but we also have to. I don't know. It's difficult because I don't want to. Because some people you can talk about it, like what you did was wrong, and then they listen to you and they say, okay, yeah.
I mean, it really comes down to the person who has been shamed. Are they actually willing to engage in a conversation listen to what people are saying, take in those arguments, see where they did wrong, try to also and unlearn anything that they might have had, which is it's work. It's a lot of work, but those people have to be willing to put the work in to be able to be forgiven. And a lot of people don't put in the work because, again, since we're living in that digital age, it's just so much easier to mute someone who calls you out on your bullshit instead of actually listening.
I think what a lot of people who are condemning call out culture, they'll say things like, it makes it really harder for some people to speak out because they don't want to be unblocked or unfriended or lose their jobs. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is, if you do something that is racist, that is sexist, even though it's something that you could technically come back from with education, if you work in communications and you travel to these countries, you do something, you're gonna be called out for it.
There's gonna be a repercussion.
There's gonna be a repercussion. But of course, do I think everyone who does something problematic should lose their jobs, their positions? Not necessarily. I think they need to be some people are saying that an alternative would be calling in, would be just because making it more of a because calling out is such a public. It's almost performative. Yeah, it's almost performative. So people think maybe calling in would be a more appropriate thing to do because it's a more private. You sit with this person one-on-one and you educate them. The problem with that is that I think when people call out certain things, it's because calling in didn't work in the first place. Or it's just I read this article somewhere where it was basically societal equivalent to like take it up with HR, like calling in is you know, it's like if you call out something, I think it's necessary.
You sit down with Jennifer from HR.
Yeah, it's a necessary thing that our society, and it's not like, and it's not new. I think we just call this call out culture now because of the digital age. Like performative activism is not new, and like all these people who are condemning call out culture, because I'm in defense of it, because I think you know, obviously you can't call out Harvey Weinstein and expect education and growth. It's not, you know, that's unforgivable. But someone who does something like who says something years ago that it's brought back into light, that's something that it's easier to it's not easier, I wouldn't say easier to deal with, but it's something that, like, you know, especially if it's someone who's really, who seems really woke now, and then something that's dug up from their past is brought up. Like, we were all idiots when we were 12. I'm sorry. But like, this is like, so when it's a case like that where something is brought up and it's used against you, I think the person who's accused needs to speak up and needs to address it in a proper way, and not be like, that was, you know, like not even a real apology, you know?
Like, oh, that was just me when I was 12. Like, that we know that is you on the video, but like, where...
Like Justin Bieber, I'm sorry.
Where do you stand now? What's the type of work that you've done to unlearn and like to learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, and I want to read like this quote, because there's this article that I read that's in defense of call-out culture. Basically this author, wait, sorry, let me get the name, Sean Scott, just talks about like all these articles condemning call-out culture, and, you know, this whole like, well, you know, it makes it hard to talk and like makes it hard to speak up. But let me read you this thing. Sorry, because I scrolled all the way up. Now I have to scroll all the way down. It's a really great article that we will link below. But I really like this quote. It says, "What many critics call call-out culture is actually a past due moral balance being called in with interest added." So, I mean, that's basically it. You're just basically telling someone, of course, with any type of system, it's gonna be abused. You're gonna have people who are constantly bullying people online. Those are the people you should listen to. The people you should listen to is who actually have concrete, like, critical arguments. Who are basically asking someone, you need to take responsibility for your actions, and you need to address them, and you need to apologize for them, and not just look the other way. So I think it's a tricky thing to talk about call-out culture, because a lot of people have very strong opinions on it.
Strong opinions.
But I think there has to be room to grow, to be educated, and to learn from your mistakes, because we all know I used to say the R word. I used to say the N word, and I'm like I'm not ashamed to that. I was a young person, and I didn't know what the hell I was saying. But like, you know, I always, do you ever think about this? Like, oh my God, what if I become remotely famous and people like dig through all my tweets and they find that like one tweet and it's brought back, and I think about how like I'm gonna dig it up myself, because I'm gonna condemn myself before anyone else does.
Yeah, of course.
You have to learn, and like you have to figure out why you say those certain things, and like realize that you did them wrong, like you did wrong, and you learn from it. But
I agree. Accountability and call-out culture.
Wow.
I think that about does it for this episode. Any last points you guys want to
I think everything is well.
We all three believe that artists should not be separated from their work. You need to be critical of everything you consume, and you shouldn't be too quick to blame call-out culture for why you can't speak up.
Okay. That's a good summary. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. Make sure to follow us here on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook.
And also like.
Like the video, comment down below. That's about it. So, see you next month. Bye.
I think that was good.
That was good.
I think that was
like 25 minutes?
34 minutes.
24.